Hi, in this video we're going to be focusing on Someone You Loved, which is the B1 piece set for grade 5. I think many people are going to enjoy playing this piece. Words and music written by a whole crowd of people you can see up there, arranged by Nikki Isles, who's written the piece before this in the book actually, but there we are. Information at the bottom of the page, always useful just to see what it's about. Someone You Loved topped the UK singles chart in March 2019. Stayed there for 7 weeks. That's pretty cool, isn't it? So for all the people who think, oh, these exam pieces, they're all kind of old and classical and stuffy, they're not actually, because we've got pieces like this, haven't we? And it, as you can see, it went on to win the Brit Award thing in 2020. My goodness me, Song of the Year. How about this? Fantastic stuff. And here's your chance to play it, which is really great. And one thing it goes on to tell us about in those notes at the bottom of the page is it talks about an underlying repeated 4-bar chord sequence. So let's start by just thinking, what is all that about? Because when some pieces are put together, they're put together in a different sort of way. You know, that maybe you have a first section and then you have another section that contrasts the first section, that maybe the first section comes back again. This piece isn't quite like that. It's built on a scheme of 4 chords that keep repeating over and over again. And when you do that, it's called an ostinato, just a repeated pattern that comes back. And it's one of the things that gives you this relaxed, calm mood, almost kind of semi-hypnotizes you a little bit because of the repeated scheme. So I want to just have a look at what these are. So if you know about chords and about chord numbers, this will make sense. If you don't know what I'm talking about, don't worry about it, but just listen to the sound of these chords. So in bar 1, we're in the key of D flat major. So we have what we call chord 1, then we have chord 5, then we have chord 6, and then we have chord 4. Okay, so that's in the key of D flat major, chord 1, 5, 6, 4, 1 chord for each bar. And then we carry on and we do that again. We just keep repeating the same chords. And all these notes that you get in the piece are notes drawn out of these chords. Okay, don't worry if you don't know what I mean by 1, 5, 6, 4. Your teacher will, but and might want to explain that to you in a bit more detail. But as long as you can hear, there are 4 different chords. Here's the first one, the second one, the third one, the fourth one. You can kind of get the idea that the whole piece is built on the idea of these 4 chords going round and round and round. And that's giving us the structure of the piece. It means we've got lots of 4-bar phrases. Music's always organised in phrases. Phrases, what are they? They're musical sentences, aren't they? So you can think of every 4 bars, every 4 measures as a musical sentence. That makes a lot of sense of the music, because if you just go through playing one note after another until you finish the piece, it's pretty deadly, isn't it, really? But if you can think, here's the first phrase. And here's the second phrase. Can you see what's happening there? We can feel 4 bars, we're coming out for a breath, and then we're doing the next 4 bars. That helps the song to sing as well. So if it's a song, it wants to sing, doesn't it? So even though we're not singing when we play the piano, we've got to make the whole piece sing to us to be musical. So I'm assuming you're going to be happy learning the notes yourself or with your teacher or whatever. Just watch out for the fact that the key signature has 5 flats in it. That's quite a lot of flats. We're in D flat major. And one thing that I might just say about D flat major, I like playing in D flat major because that's the sort of sad person I am. But one thing about D flat major is it uses all the black keys. D flat, E flat, G flat, A flat, B flat. And it only uses 2 white keys, F and C, and those 2 white keys are always on the right-hand side of the pairs of white notes. You know, you have E and F as a pair, B and C as a pair, where F is on the right, C is on the right. So you use all the blacks and then always be on the right-hand side of the 2 whites. It's just a way to help you think about D flat major. And it's almost easier to think which are the notes that are not flat, and the answer is C and F, and then just think everything else is flat. It's one way of thinking about playing in D flat major. So then when you've got going with all the notes and rhythms and got your fingering sorted out and all the rest of it, start to think of this piece in 4-bar phrases. So let me just play you a bit so you get the idea. Here's the first phrase and we've got this 4-chord ostinato going. And so it goes on. That's just the first page. What I was hoping you were going to hear, oh yeah, these 4 chords coming round over and over again and these 4-bar phrases. So you can breathe at the end of every 4 bars. Good idea just to know where's the end of every 4-bar phrase so you know when to breathe. And then that keeps going through the second page. And then we have this kind of contrasting bit in the middle. When you get to the end of the second page, you see the last bar of the second page, it sort of builds up steam and goes loud here, and then we've got this kind of rather exciting bit that's a bit different, but the same chord scheme just going on, and then it calms down again to finish the piece. But if you can keep going with these 4-bar phrases, that's really good. Right at the end of the piece, there's something called a coda. It's 2 bars long in this piece, and a coda is just a kind of tail piece, a bit on the end just to finish off the piece. So if I play the bottom line from bar 43, you get the end of this phrase. And here's the coda. So you can hear how that's just a bit on the end to kind of finish off the piece, calm the mood at the end. So that's kind of how the piece is put together. And if you can play it in 4-bar phrases and then just paint that coda at the end, and maybe just paint that greater bit of excitement in the middle of the piece, well, then you're really kind of getting hold of the way the piece is written. And you're not going to go down this kind of possible dangerous route of making it all sound a bit mechanical. You know, a robot could play so we don't want that. See what I'm doing with that? I'm really kind of trying to make it expressive. So that's what's important. Now, how are we going to make it expressive? Well, this piece kind of wants to be pretty smooth, doesn't it? You see, we've got some phrases, they've got these marks over them, just saying, here's a phrase. We've talked about the other bits of 4-bar phrase. We've got some phrasing inside the phrases. So for example, if you look in bar 12, look at the right hand, staccato, legato, lift, and then a pair of notes, lift, put these notes together, then lift, all smooth, then lift. So when we come to the ends of those bits of phrasing, just kind of lift. Don't bump off the last notes, but lift and start again. That's like the singer taking a breath, and that's really going to help your expression. So if we can get the phrasing that's marked in the music. So basically you're going to play smoothly unless it tells you specific things like this. Lift at the end, start again without bumping notes. Every now and again you're going to kind of lean on a note, like bar 19, the first note in the right hand there. Do you see it's got a little line on it? That's called a tenuto. It's sort of slightly held, you know, just sort of lean slightly on that note. So ta ba 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 pa dum pa do dum. Do you see how I've done that? So I'm just leaning on that note. You can also at that point in the right hand enjoy that little bit of a duet. You see, a lot of the time the right hand is just playing one note at a time on the melody. When we come to 18, it plays one note at a time, and then it plays 2 notes at a time. So it's kind of duetting there for a bit, isn't it? So often just one line, sometimes duetting. So you can kind of enjoy that as well. Other bits of phrasing, when you get to bar 21, we've got a lift, and then we play this, and then lift, pam pam param, do, 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 do. That's a long phrase line there, isn't it? Then you lift, and ta dee do do. Then that's a shorter phrase. So some of these bits of phrasing are long, some of them are short. There's lots of contrast in there, isn't there? Little details, by the way, like 22, there's a funny bit of rhythm. You know that ta-dum, boom, that way you can kind of go quick, slow, dum, you know, it's a quick note followed by a longer note. It's sometimes called a Scotch snap, sometimes called a Lombardic rhythm. How about that? But anyway, there you go. There's just a little bit of rhythm just to make sure you've got that right. When you get to the last bar of page 13, this is bar 29, can you see you're trying to play smoothly on these octaves if you can? But the second one's got an accent. So da-bum, it's not ba-dum, but ta-bum. So that's kind of what we call a displaced accent, when an accent comes between the beats. So that's just changing the character for a moment. It's opening up the song, isn't it? So you can play the phrasing. By the way, if it's possible, it may not be possible if you haven't got big enough hands, so don't worry. But if you can at the top go 4, 5, and then hop your thumb at the bottom, 1, 1, at least you get the top note smooth, but then try and accent the second one, da, bum. And then when you have this chord that follows, that's also got an accent, isn't it? So you've got this 1, 2, it's coming sort of between the beats, isn't it? So there's a bar where you've got to do some interesting things with accents. And then we're back to sort of the normal phrasing. You've got another accent organization in bar 33, like the one we just talked about. And then we're kind of back to those other bits of phrasing. I think lots of people will probably play this piece quite smoothly, but they won't actually do the phrasing that it says in the book. So try to do that phrasing if you can, include the accents and so on. So that will really help us if we can get that going. Balance carefully between the hands. You know, when has the right hand got the tune? Quite often the right hand's got the tune. Well, the right hand could be a bit louder than the left hand. You know, when you come to bar 5, see, the left hand just wants to be in the background a bit, doesn't it? It's MP, but the right hand tune is kind of MP plus, the left hand is MP minus, and then that kind of balances out quite nicely. Every now and again, the left hand may have just something more to say, where you might think, yeah, you know, there's some of those quavers in the left hand I could just draw out a little bit, but be very careful. Like, for example, in bar 7, where the right hand comes to the end of something, then the left hand has T, T, it's not really the main tune, is it? But it's a sort of little hint of a tune that's very briefly connecting one part of the phrase with another. So you could let that come through a bit. But basically in this piece, the right hand melody, a bit louder than the left hand, then we get lovely balance. We don't want to be bashing out things in the left hand just because the left hand's busy playing in quavers or eighth notes or something. Beautiful tone is going to be really important in this, you know. We should always aim to play with beautiful tone, a beautiful sound. So when we're playing loudly, is it a lovely, warm, big, confident sound that's just luscious and beautiful to listen to? Or is it harsh and kind of a bit punishing on the ears? Because we don't want that. When it's quiet, is it beautiful, kind of intimate, quiet, reflective, silky, golden sound? Or is it a bit weak and feeble and I'm not quite sure if I heard that note? Because that's not going to work, is it? So controlling our tone at different volume levels is going to be quite an important thing to do. You'll want to get these dynamics, so we're really on it with that, you know, MF at the beginning, so moderately loud start, then in bar 4, diminuendo, gradually getting quieter. When you're doing those diminuendos and those crescendos, try to grade them really evenly. Lots of people deliver crescendos in lumps, or they kind of go suddenly loud on the first 2 or 3 notes and then there's nowhere to go. Same with diminuendos, they go suddenly quiet on the first 2 or 3 notes, nowhere to go. So make sure they're really even. So that bar 4, crescendo. Do you see what I'm trying to do? I'm trying to do those gradually rather than dashing into them. So MF at the beginning, diminuendo, end of the first line. Then when we come to bar 5, we're going back to speed. Remember, it says slight roll at the end of the first line, so slow down a little bit. Then a tempo means go back to speed. But then it's MP, bit of a crescendo, bit of a diminuendo. Next line, crescendo, diminuendo. Next line, crescendo, MF at the end of the page. On to the next page. Diminuendo, crescendo to MF, another crescendo, another diminuendo, MP. You see how it's changing all the way through the piece. It's like a kind of kaleidoscope, isn't it? And then when you come to the end of the second page, bar 29, forte, this is quite strong. All right, so that's going to be a bigger sound than we get anywhere else in the piece. Then it comes down to MF, diminuendo, but then forte again in 33 when we repeat the thing I've just played. But all the way through, there's lots of ups and downs. And this helps to generate something called shape. You know, when you're getting louder into a phrase, getting quieter as we go past a peak. You may want to get a bit louder as the pitch is going up and a bit quieter as the pitch comes down. You may think, actually, this bar is pushing me towards the beginning of the next bar. And that would make you go a little bit louder and then maybe a little bit quieter as you come back. So a bit like sometimes on the beach, you know, you hear the sea come in and then you hear the sea go out again. You know, that kind of effect would work very well in a song like this. So you might want us to get that, what we call shape, into the phrases. You can do exactly what's written in the book, that's important. And if you want to do some extra, that's really quite a nice thing to do. In the first 3 bars, I wouldn't just play at MF. I would definitely have a bit of rise and fall there as well. I'd just make sure in bar 4 that I'm doing that diminuendo, slowing down a bit, and then making sure that in bar 5 I'm MP for that new start. So it's going to need lots of shape and what we call in musical circles cantabile, which is Italian for singing style. It's got to feel like it's a song and it's absolutely being sung to us, even though you're playing it on the piano. So that's a really, really important thing to do. The other thing I was going to say about tone, by the way, that's the quality of sound, is aim for really even tone. What do I mean by that? Well, let's take the first bar as an example. You need your 5th finger and your thumb to play the right hand of the first bar. People often find their 5th fingers are a bit weak, a bit soggy, and their thumbs are really strong. So some people will play the first bar like this. See what's happening? The F is a bit kind of weak and the thumb's a bit strong. Maybe I'm exaggerating that a little bit, but if that happens to you, and it would happen to lots of people, it's trying to even it out. You just keep playing that and think, is one louder than the other, or have I got that nice and even? Then try the next pair. So you're just really happy with things like that. So we haven't got some fingers sticking out or some notes sticking out, but it's an even tone. That's going to help you a great deal. You could use something called rubato. That means that even though it says about 104 for the speed, you can set that on your metronome to kind of get an idea what that is. It means you can be a bit flexible. So if you're sort of like at the end of the first line, it says slight roll, slow down a bit, beginning of the second line, go back to speed. There are other places where you might think, I'll just relax a little bit at the end of a phrase and then I'll start the new phrase back in time. That can be a very expressive thing to do. Don't overdo it because it'll make your audience feel a bit seasick, you know. But if you just are a little bit elastic. So if you come to the end of a phrase and you just want to slow a little bit, take a breath, move on back into tempo, that would be a musical thing to do. If there are times when you think, oh, that's a lovely moment, I just want to enjoy that, it's the peak of a phrase or something, well, you know, stretch the tempo a little bit there, but don't overdo it. It's got to be subtle. So we get a really subtle rubato into that whole thing. So a successful performance of this piece is going to be kind of like pulling together all of those threads, isn't it? Setting a speed that works. It says about 104. If you're a bit slower than that or even a notch faster than that, it won't really matter, but you want to be somewhere in that ballpark. And if you get a chance to listen to the original song, that will be a great idea. When people arrange music, as Nicky R's has done here, you're always going to look at the music and think, oh, it sounds a bit different from what I'm listening to on YouTube or something. That's going to happen. Don't let it worry you. Just listen to it, maybe away from the music, just to kind of think, okay, I've got an idea about what it sounds like in its original form. And now we're doing an arrangement of that. We're not doing the original form, we're doing an arrangement of it for piano. So what do I need to take from what I've heard on YouTube, from the original? What am I going to kind of read from the music? What am I going to inject from my own way of expressing the piece so that we can really make this work? So it's a sort of piece where it'll be kind of relatively easy to get through the notes and just play the notes. It might just get you through, but actually it's not going to get an amazing mark. And lots of people say, well, I played the right notes, I played the right rhythms. What more do they want? Well, what we want is a musical, expressive performance that captures the mood of the song and that captures your soul and that communicates with the world, where you feel your emotions and you put them into the way you're playing the piece. And this is very much one of those pieces. So if you love this song anyway, or if you can really engage with it emotionally, that would be great. Come back to the title, Someone You Loved. Now, depends how old you are and which kind of life experience you have, but there'll be quite a few people playing this piece who've loved someone. Well, if you've loved someone, have a think about that. It may be maybe your mum or something, someone you loved, or it may be that actually it was somebody you loved, maybe a boyfriend, a girlfriend or something, and then something maybe didn't go quite right. Things went a bit wrong. You may feel a bit sad. Yeah, that was someone I loved some time ago, and it's not quite worked out. You may be relieved it hasn't worked out, or you may be sad it hasn't worked out, but you can use it to fire your own imagination. So it's a kind of love song, but someone you loved in the past tense. You see what's going on in the title there? Sort of suggesting something to do with the past, isn't it? Where you're now reflecting on it, thinking, I'm thinking about that person I loved, and where does it lead me? What am I thinking? What am I feeling? Now, if you've got any experience of that, then you could put that into the music. It might even be something like you had a pet who sadly died and you really loved your pet, and now your pet's not here anymore. That's very sad, isn't it? But you might have happy memories of that pet, and you may also feel sad about it. So you could kind of get all that going in the way you play the piece. What you don't want to be is a robot thinking, these are the notes, I'm playing them. You want to get yourself involved in the story and communicate that. And then actually performing music becomes the most exciting thing ever. Playing notes is boring, but communicating through music is one of the most exciting things you'll ever do in your life. So that's what this piece is about. And if you can get a hold of that, you'll give a superb performance of Someone You Love. So enjoy learning this piece.